When I first met Claire, I thought I had stumbled into the kind of love stories people envy. She was radiant, charming, and carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew how to make others feel seen. I was just an ordinary guy, working long hours, trying to make something of myself. With her by my side, the world felt lighter. We built a home, shared dreams, and for years, I believed she was my forever. But forever started to crack when little things began to feel off. She was suddenly working late more often. Her phone never left her hand. Bathroom, kitchen. Even when she was asleep, it rested under her pillow. At first, I told myself not to overthink. After all, I trusted her. We were a team. One night, she came home smelling faintly a cologne that wasn't mine. I asked her about it, trying to keep my voice steady, but she laughed it off, saying a coworker had hugged her after some office celebration. My stomach twisted, but I swallowed the doubt. Love, I thought, requires faith. So I kept believing. Weeks turned into months, and the distance between us grew. She'd sit across from me at dinner, scrolling her phone while I talked about my day. Her laughter, once so natural with me, now belonged to someone else. I could hear it in the way she guarded it, like a secret she wouldn't share. The breaking point came on a rainy Friday evening. She told me she was heading to a conference dinner downtown. Something in her eyes, a flicker she couldn't hide, told me this was a lie. My chest burned as I grabbed my jacket and decided to follow her. She wasn't headed downtown. She drove 2 suburbs over, to a quiet street I didn't recognize. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I parked a few houses away and watched her walk up to a small, dimly lit home. She didn't knock. She had a key. My heart sank, heavy and sharp, but what came next shook me deeper than I imagined. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw her wrap her arms not around some stranger, but around a man I recognized. My own cousin, Daniel. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the chest. Memories rushed back. Family dinners, holidays, the times Daniel and I had grown up like brothers. All those years, and this was what had been happening behind my back. I wanted to storm in, to tear down the walls with my rage. But something held me back. Maybe it was a shock. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe it was a tiny, foolish hope that I was wrong. I pulled out my phone and recorded everything. The embrace, the kiss, the way she melted into him as if she had belonged there all along. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. When she came home later that night, she smiled faintly, as if expecting me to ask nothing. But I couldn't stay silent anymore. I set my phone on the table and pressed play. Her face drained of color as her secret played out between us. "Claire," I said, my voice low, almost unrecognizable to myself. "How long?" She froze, her hands trembling, and finally whispered, "A year." A year. An entire year of lies, of shared beds and false promises. My chest felt hollow. And with him, I demanded. My cousin, tears welled in her eyes, but no explanation could undo the truth. She admitted everything. How it started at a family barbecue, how they couldn't stop, how she thought I would never find out. But there was more. The darker secret lay in what she confessed next. She admitted that some of the nights she told me she was working late, she was actually staying at Daniel's place with our daughter. She had introduced my little girl to him. Let her believe that her father's cousin was just a special friend. My blood ran cold. "You brought our child into this?" I choked out. "You let her be part of your lies?" She broke down, sobbing, but I couldn't feel sympathy anymore. The betrayal was deeper than an affair. It was a violation of trust as a father, as a husband, as a man who had given everything to his family. That night, I packed a bag. I couldn't stay, not with the weight of her secrets crushing me. I filed for divorce within a week, and when I told my family, the storm that followed tore apart more than just a marriage. Daniel was cast out, disowned, his reputation destroyed. Claire tried to cling to excuses, but the truth had already burned through everything she built. It's been months since then. The nights are still hard, the silence still heavy. But I find strength in my daughter's smile, in the promise that one day she'll understand I walked away not because I stopped loving her mother, but because her mother's love was never real. Cheating is one thing, but dragging an innocent child into it, that's a darkness I will never forgive. And though it broke me, I'm free now. Free from lies. Free from secrets. Free to build a life where betrayal no longer lives in my home. The days after I exposed Claire were a blur. I moved into a small apartment across town, barely furnished, just enough space for me and my daughter when she visited. The silence was unbearable at first. I'd sit on the couch, staring at the walls, trying to understand how someone I had trusted so deeply could tear my world apart. Claire kept calling, leaving messages. At first, they were apologies. Then, when I didn't respond, they turned into pleading. She begged to come home, said she had made a mistake, said Daniel meant nothing. But the images burned in my mind told a different story. Her arms around him, the comfort of a key to his place, the way she had looked at him as if I didn't exist. When I finally answered one of her calls, it wasn't out of love, it was out of anger. "Don't call me again unless it's about our daughter," I snapped. My voice shook, not with fear, but with a rage I had never felt before. She cried on the other end. "Please, can't we just talk? You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I laughed bitterly. "You're right. It wasn't supposed to happen at all. You were my wife, my partner, and you threw that away for my cousin. Do you even realize how disgusting this is?" Her sobs filled the line, but I ended the call. My parents were devastated when I told them. My mother cried, shaking her head, muttering prayers under her breath. My father's jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might crack. When I told him it was Daniel, not just some stranger, my father slammed his fist on the table. "That boy was like a son to me," he growled. "And he does this? With your wife." The family fractured almost instantly. Word spread, as it always does in families. Some cousins tried to defend Daniel, saying love is complicated. But most turned their backs on him. He stopped showing up to family gatherings. My uncles refused to speak his name. My parents disowned him completely. But Claire, she wouldn't let go. A week after I filed for divorce, she showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and there she was, hair a mess, makeup streaked from tears, holding a bag of groceries like she thought playing house would erase what she had done. "I just want to talk," she whispered, her eyes swollen. I stepped aside, letting her in, mostly because I didn't want the neighbors hearing the fight I knew was coming. She set the groceries down on the counter, like we were still married, like nothing had shattered between us. "I know I hurt you," she began, wringing her hands. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight, but can't we try again? For our daughter?" I stared at her, incredulous. "For our daughter? You brought her into your affair. You think I don't know about that? You let her meet Daniel. Let her think he was just some special friend. You don't get to use her as an excuse now." Her lips trembled. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "You had a year to stop, a year to remember you had a husband, a family, and you chose him every time." She broke down, sobbing into her hands. For a moment, a small, broken part of me wanted to comfort her. But then I remembered the nights I had waited at home, cooking dinner that went cold, believing her lies, the way she had smiled at me while sneaking around behind my back. I hardened. "You're not crying because you lost him. You're crying because you lost me, and you'll never get me back." Her sobs quieted. She looked at me then, her face streaked, her eyes red, and whispered something I'll never forget. "You'll never love anyone like you loved me, and one day you'll regret letting me go." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "No, Claire, the only regret I have is ever trusting you." I told her to leave, and when the door shut behind her, I felt something shift inside me. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but for the first time, I felt a flicker of freedom. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks later, I got a call from Daniel. I almost didn't answer, but my curiosity got the better of me. When I picked up, his voice was low, almost ashamed. "Man, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Sorry. I barked. You think sorry fixes this? You think sorry makes up for sleeping with my wife? For betraying me, betraying our family? I didn't mean for it to go this far, he muttered. It just happened. I loved her. The words twisted my stomach. Loved her. He dared to call it love. You loved her? Then why did she show up at my apartment, begging me to take her back? She doesn't love you, Daniel. She used you, and you threw away our family for nothing. There was silence on the other end, and then the line went dead. I never heard from him again. The divorce finalized months later. Claire fought hard for custody, but the evidence I had, the recordings, the lies, the proof she had involved our daughter in her affair, tipped the scales in my favor. The court granted me primary custody. Claire was allowed visitation, but under supervision at first. The day I walked out of that courthouse, papers in hand, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The scars remain. Betrayal doesn't just vanish. But I've learned something important. Secrets rot in the dark, but once they're dragged into the light, they lose their power. Claire's dark secret almost destroyed me, but in the end, it revealed something stronger. It showed me that I could survive the worst kind of betrayal. And though the pain lingers, I know now that truth, no matter how painful, is better than any comforting lie.